Hi, Misha here, and this is a special and honestly difficult black box to do. But difficult in a good way, if that makes sense. I think you'll understand. And I'm especially inviting our Patreon supporters from Mishaco to chime in because I need your help dating a couple of guns. And also, if you have any information about their models or variants, that would really help me out because I've spent some time looking, and yeah, it's a little difficult because these aren't the run-of-the-mill guns. As I mentioned in a previous black box, last week we went down to my hometown to go through my father's safe, including his guns, amongst other things in there. And I was gifted. My mother just wasn't ready to talk about it until now, and then she got ready and called 3 of us in the family who are applicable, me, my brother, and my cousin, who's basically a younger sister to me for different reasons, who works in wildlife fishing game. Anyway, she's in it professionally. My brother is a hunter. I am not a hunter, but, gun person. And I did help my father maintain his guns, gunsmithing, that kind of stuff. Anyway, she couldn't do that, give away his guns, but wanted us to because hunting season's coming on. And, there wasn't anything I needed or wanted. With inheritance type stuff, not owed anything. But there were a couple of guns that had special memories for me, and that I did come home with. I didn't ask. They were offered to me, and I couldn't say no. But yeah, I'm gonna show them to you. This isn't gonna be a pure black box. In fact, we're about to go to the table, and you can look at the guns. Hopefully, I was able to get some of the markings on camera. And if you could tell me when they were made, any information, that would be great, because eventually I do plan on doing a main Mishaco channel video shooting them, but not yet. I'm just now getting where I am ready to do it emotionally, if that makes sense. And these really will be the most valuable guns to me in the collection. So take a look. And here they are. My father was not a gun collector like myself. He had nothing against military collectible type guns. In fact, later in life, I think he kind of grew to appreciate my putting my money into those versus other things. He was a hunter and occasional sports target shooter. But, I wanted these. I didn't want, that's not the right word. My opinion about any type of inheritance, we're not owed anything. And these are certainly not of monetary value, much, if anything. But sentimental value, seriously, they're off the charts for me. For both family reasons and personal reasons. I'll talk about that when we go back to being a black box. But as I said, I could use your help. I am getting ready to do something for the main channel. It's been a very difficult video to do emotionally, mentally, and also time-wise. But I want to be prepared for it. But, 1, I'm not really well-versed in sporting commercial guns. 2, I spent an entire evening trying to dig into things, and it's hard to do. It really is. So I'm going to show you what I know about each, and if you can give me any details, fun facts, and most importantly, manufacturing dates, that would be greatly appreciated. Let's start with this. As you can read, hopefully, this is a Stevens made when they were owned by Savage. Model, there we go. Model 94C. And what I know about the date, they did not put model 94 on the guns until 1939. At least that's the common consensus. So post 39. Serial numbers were not required on any firearm until the Gun Control Act 1968. So broad strokes, it was built between 39 and 68. But we can narrow that down further. 1960 was the last year they built guns at the Jacoby Falls place in Massachusetts, the original Stevens factory. After that, they would move to, West End, West Fork, whatever, which was another Savage factory in 1961. So there, it's between 1939 and 1960. We can narrow that down. There's no serial on it. Now, there may or may not be a date code. And hope maybe I can get something for you. Between 1940 and 48, they did not have really any kind of date systems on these. For example, at that time, Mossberg, they actually used a letter for the alphabet to each year, and they would just cycle around. But in March of 49, Stevens introduced a date system, with A being 1949, B being 1950, and so on, up through 1968, when they introduced serial numbers. And there are some markings on this. Now, both the frame and the barrel should have the date code ABCD if they're there. However, the numbers that accompany it are not supposed to match. And as far as I know, no one really knows what the numbers mean. This is a 3-inch chamber, select forged steel, as it says. So, can anyone make out if there is one of the date codes on it? The reason I'm not sure, I've asked 2 people, and one of them says yes, one of them says no. And I don't know. I'm blind. What the fuck am I supposed to know about it? Yeah. And if you crack it open, I'm going to keep hitting things. I'm not used to barrels this long, guys. These barrels, I think, were made anywhere from 26 to 36 inches. Here. In the latch area on the opposing side, it does say SP, which I've read is on several of these. This is a well-loved gun that's shot countless rounds, but it's still solid shape. The extractor ejector works fine. The latch is solid, doesn't come apart. The latch mechanism is fine. The hammer is good to go. Trigger works fine, although I'm not going to dry fire it. Not a big fan of dry firing things. And the stock, while it has honest character, isn't cracked or destroyed. Now, he used guns, but he was not about to abuse a machine. The old rubber butt plate, recoil pad, it's pretty good shape. It's got a little bit of cracking in one spot on this side, and a little bit there, but overall, it's fine. And it still has its front bead sight. And what's kind of neat about these little single-shot Savages, and Stevens Savages, they actually have a rear sight. So it's almost a rifle sight system. But it's just a dependable little 410 breakover single-shot shotgun. So why is this special? Well, that's an easy thing to answer, at least objectively speaking. Let's go back outside, and I'll tell you what I can tell you. You know, I think a lot of people will have a similar story. Those single-shot Stevens were just so ubiquitous, especially around here in Arkansas, but really anywhere. And they made so many for so many years, and they were a lot of people's first, including mine. But this gun's been in the family quite a long time. It was given to my father by his grandfather when he was young. Now, I would like to know when it was made, just to know really when he got it. I mean, he talked about it over the years, of course, but he's not here to ask anymore. So, yeah, I'd like to just narrow it down. So hopefully I got something on there. The main thing is I want to know if those markings are one of the date codes or not, because if it's not a date code, then we know it was between 1939 and 1948. If it is a date code, then that means it was between 1949 and 1960. So that would be of great help. Anyway, that was given to him. And there was actually two of them in his safe. There was the single shot there, and there was actually a gun that was a little more uncommon. It was a double barrel 410 Stevens, but both barrels were 410. Usually you see one like 22 and one 410. Now initially, my brother wanted that, the single shot. Now to me, that gun was really important because it's the first gun I probably ever shot in my life. Certainly earliest memories and, shooting it with him. And he told me that when I was a little kid that, that would be one that could go to me. But he was, he was a man of his word, but he was also sometimes very generous, especially when he, had a few to drink. He wasn't a drunk. Please, no. But, he's like me. I'm a very jolly, happy drunk, and I'd pretty much give away the house if, when I'm in that mood. So my brother said he also told him when he was a kid that was the case. And I thought about it, and I thought, the last thing our father would have wanted was fighting. He hated fighting because he himself, his actual parents were, really his father was a true alcoholic on whiskey. So let's just say it was not a pleasant household. That's actually why his grandparents raised him. And his grandfather that gave it to him was a game warden here in the 1930s and 40s and so on and so forth. So he wouldn't have wanted us to fight. So since we knew we were going to be going down in a couple weeks, I'd already thought, absolutely not going to fight over it. And if he told my brother that's who he wanted it to go to, that's his right. And that's how it is. That's how the cookie crumbles. And I absolutely wasn't going to be upset. In fact, I was happy. It was just safe and in the family. Well, unbeknownst to me, I talked to my cousin, his daughter, and cousin, I guess I should say niece or whatever. But anyway, how does that work? Yeah. But he had the same thought over the weeks since we went down. He realized he already had been gifted by our dad a couple of guns because they hunted together. Obviously, I couldn't hunt, so yeah. But he already had a few. So he had decided that, like me, that, yeah. So when it came out of the safe, we both basically said, I think you wanted this. And both like, oh, no, you if you want it. And then it's like, no, it's okay. So I wasn't going to say no 3 times in a row because it does have a lot of sentimental value to me in childhood and really brings back memories of a simpler time. And I never met his grandfather. He passed away before I was born. So it is kind of neat to have that connection going back, 4 generations in the family? 3? So I'd really love to know as much as I can about when it was made, just to know, because obviously I know my father's birth date and all that good stuff. And as you saw in the video clip, it's still in shootable condition. Not going to be running any competitions or 3-gun courses or anything with it, but I definitely will run a box of shells through it now and again for old time's sake. I mean, a single shot 410 is a lot of fun, frankly, and that's a piece of Americana. And reading online and kind of looking at reviews, when it comes to hunting, sporting, single shot 410s, it really is rated amongst the best, most dependable, and it is truly ambidextrous. Interestingly, they actually offered them with a Tenite type synthetic wood furniture in the 40s, which is kind of cool. I read online about that. This one has wood stocks, but yeah, they were kind of ahead of the time doing all weather, just like it was an ambidextrous gun, and it had a rear sight, which is not even common today on single shots. And it's classic American steel from that era. It means a lot to me, it really does. And that's, like I said, I have guns in my collection. I've got Swiss guns and German guns and all that, and truth be told, if I had to pick, I couldn't promise you I'd let go of one of those before letting go of it, just because memories and keepsakes are just not replaceable. Then again, maybe I'm just getting emotional in my old age, I don't know. So what about the next gun, the Revolver? So what about this one? This is a high standard 9 in 22 LR. Why did I want this? Well, like before, we'll go back to a Blackbox and I'll tell you the stories. But for now, if anyone could help me date this, it's actually very important to me to get a year date on this one. I'll explain in the next Blackbox section. The serial number, for what it's worth, is 1,518,009 something. So, yeah. Now, High Standard first introduced their Western-style 22 pistol, the Centurion, or excuse me, the Sentinel, in 1955, and they introduced the 9 as the W100 in 1958. But they very quickly made changes. Had the 101 in 59, the 102 in 60, the 103 in 61, and they introduced this version here, the W104 in 62. They weren't making a new model every year. They were just making changes. For example, they added a spring for the whole latch system up here, which didn't originally exist. They also made some simplifications for mass production, going to some stamped components and making some internal changes to both speed up production and make it safer. This is a full-size gun. It is an alloy frame, so it's not terribly heavy. It has a 5.5-inch barrel. These were offered with black or white grips, or in this case, wonderful fake stag. Later on, they would introduce wood grips. And of course, you can always replace them. 9-shot cylinder. Needs a little bit of oil. It sticks. It's not broken. There's just like there's a glob in there. It's sticking it. I just need to clean it. And this cylinder is counterbored. And High Standard did that so that you could, theoretically, dry fire it. But I'm not going to. I don't like dry firing 22s at all, being rimfire. Still has the firing pin on the hammer. Later versions would go in the frame. And it is a true double action. It's a very stiff double action pull, but it still works. everything still works on this. A little bit of corrosion there, and I believe this has gold accents for what it's worth. Blued finish. Again, another well-loved gun. This actually came with a leather holster, but I'm not showing it because it's actually embossed with my father's name because it was a gift. So let's cut back to Blackbox and I'll explain that. But first, yeah, if anyone can help me out, I know it was between 1965 and 1970. They quit doing the W104 in 70 or 71, although I think they were still shipping them for a few years. It was replaced by the W5 and the second model, which was the W6, which had a steel frame for the Magnum round. But yeah, they made this from 62 to 70, and based on the serial, it seems like it's between 1965 and 1970, and I'm kind of leaning more towards 65, 66. But if anyone has a data sheet or could tell me, that would be helpful. Of course, it's still dated for the Connecticut address in Herndon or Handon, whatever. You can't read things right in front of you. Makes it hard to remember everything. That's kind of the point of this video, to kind of get established. But yeah, any help you can give dating this one, or this one, or just any fun facts. For example, what's the difference between the 94A, B, and C? From what I've read, they're just small mechanical updates and changes on these Stevens. And these high standards seem to have a pretty good reputation for being 22 caliber pistols. Does anyone know, can you shoot 22 short out of these safely? I've read you can, but it doesn't say. It also doesn't even say 22 LR, this is 22. I know it's not a Magnum, I know that. But I'm curious if shorts can safely be fired or not. With that, let's go back to the Blackbox storytime portion of this video. So, much like with the 410, the 22 revolver there was something I shot early on as a kid too. I think the first handgun I ever shot as a little kid, and I mean little, 3, 4, 5 years old, hey, it's Arkansas, don't judge, was probably a Ruger Standard, but I'd say that's the first revolver I ever shot. I think that's safe. And I shot it throughout childhood. And I remember, shooting it several times, but I remember once in college, I had just broken up with a girlfriend. Holiday breaks were over. It was January, February, whatever that was. Things were just not great. It was early 2003, and I had a sleepless night. And when I was being driven back home that morning, I had gone down to visit family that weekend. Again, I just was not in a great headspace. Things weren't super great. I was about to finish undergrad, and I just didn't know where I was going in life, you know what I mean? Plus, my guide dog at the time, Brandy, was starting to get up there in years and having health issues. Just a bad time. So I went down there, and so we're driving home, had the radio on, and the fucking space shuttle blew up. That's when the Columbia disaster happened. And that was just like it. It's like, this is a cursed day. So I told him that. I was like, I need to get out of town. So he drove me out to the cabin, and I remember using that 22 just to plink on the river, just to really blow off steam. And it helped. And by that time, I was already a gun owner for several years, but still, yeah, it was kind of like connecting to my childhood then in 2003, and that's kind of how I feel now. But that gun also has family history, and one reason I really want to know the manufacture date, even better if I knew the ship or purchase date, that was purchased by my mother for my father as an anniversary gift, and as far as I know, it's the only gun she ever bought him, and it kind of stands out for what he owned. he had a dozen or so shotguns and rifles, again, all hunting, but he only had 2 handguns, both revolvers. That one and another American classic, a Ruger 357 Blackhawk, which was the one gun my mother insisted on keeping. I don't blame her. He just, for whatever reason, really loved that gun. He just was really proud of it. Again, a classic piece of American iron, so, you know, why not? And so that just had a connection for me. And since it wasn't a hunting gun, that was kind of always something. And to be fair, I didn't own a 22 LR handgun before. I'm not a big 22 person, as I've said in several videos. I do have a 22 short revolver, which was actually a birthday gift that my father bought me, 2004, 5, 6, I don't remember, a while back. The little North American tiny thing. And I do have a 22 LR rifle, that Armalite AR-7, the pilot's gun. But yeah, since I mostly collect military and police guns, not many 22s that are military and police. I know, shocking. It's just nice to have that, and it is a neat gun, much like with the Stevens being one of the best single-shot 410s. Reading online, the Double 9 is one of the best 22 LR revolvers out there. They're especially well known for having symmetrical chambers and just being accurate, and you know, being a full-sized and having a 9-shot capacity. And yeah, the only thing people seem to really kind of joke about are those fake stag grips, but that's how it came to him as a gift, along with the gold-plated highlights. So that's exactly how it will stay forever in my hands. Yeah, it's tough, but what I'd like to do is get the dates down, any other information down, and then kind of write something up to put with them. Because if something were to happen to me, let's say I just disappear tomorrow, people might look at my gun collection when they get in, you know, once they defuse all the trip mines and they lull the alligators to sleep and, you know, mollify the attack cats with the sacrifice to the gods. In other words, to the cats. Once they get in, they'll see all these military guns, and again, Swiss and German guns and Colts and all that. And then there'll be these 2 kind of, well, one kind of cowboy revolver and one Stevens 410, which just seemed totally out of place. So I want to make sure that their history, their heritage is preserved, even if something happens to me. So I want to do a video eventually when I can do it. And then I also just want to do a write-up and stick it with them, just to make sure that, you know, and I understand that the value is totally subjective, totally me and my family, but that's okay, because frankly, life is subjective. But yeah, the Stevens, it's a connection to his childhood and his father that raised him, grandfather, and the High Standard. Well, it's a connection to their early marriage and just their early days, and that's neat. Plus, it's also a connection to my own childhood and young adulthood, and just family, things that are important. So anyone who can contribute, I sincerely greatly appreciate your help. And heck, if you want, I'll be happy to even credit you in the main video when I do get around to doing it. And for those from the Patreon that came over, thanks for tuning in. Again, these are my black boxes. They're usually entirely black like this, but you know, sometimes I do put in living color portions as necessary. Otherwise, the week's drawing to the end. It was a good week this week, better than the last. Jay just, well, I've had the video for about a week, but published his video updating where he's been for the main channel, so it sounds like he's out, and you know, his reasons are very solid and sound. And like he said, even in that video, there's no drama, there's nothing crazy that happened. Just, you know, time and place, move on. Ironically, these 2 guns would probably fit in more with his collection. He's been going more for the revolvers and cowboy guns lately than I have, but he ain't getting them. No one's getting them. Probably pass them on to the family when we're gone, because there's some other stuff. There was a 30-30 in there that my father had earmarked for a young member of the family who was not old enough to hunt yet, but he wanted him to have it for hunting. And actually that 30-30 is kind of neat, because my father got it from a man who actually was there on D-Day. He jumped, I believe he was at the 101, but he jumped on D-Day there, so that's where it came from. So we're keeping that in trust until that family member is old enough to go hunting and can appreciate it. And I hope whenever we present that to him on whatever birthday is deemed appropriate by the members of the family, that he realizes that even in the end he was thinking of him. It's his would it be his great-grandson? Yeah, great-grandson. He's little. It's tough, guys. But again, in a good way. It really is. It really is. It's good to have something. I just yeah. You know, I can't see pictures, and that's how a lot of people keep their memories alive, is looking at pictures of people. Well, that's not open to me. So having something that's three-dimensional, a relic that I also know meant so much to him, it's comfort. Maybe cold comfort at times, but it's comfort. It helps. It helps a bit. But yeah, time. I mean, it's been, oh good God, it's been 7 months now, half a year and more. Doesn't seem real. And the truth is, I don't think I'll ever get over this. My normal from before is over. But you know, a new normal will be established. That's what I tell my wife. And it's funny, several members of my family have told their spouses and other people that, you know, you don't always realize you're in a close family until something like this happens. But I also know I'll get over it. I mean, he got over his own father dying, grandfather, and yeah, I will too, because you got to carry on. And the last thing he would want would be the world to stop. That's just not what it was. He lived a full life, and he went out the way he'd wanted, stubborn as ever. And he kept his dignity, he kept his mind, he even kept his physical. I mean, he was in physically good shape up to the end. And no one had to watch him in a nursing home. He lived at home right up until, hell, he was at work. Yeah, at his age, like 80, he still went to work. He loved to work. He owned his own business. He was at work the day he fell sick, and then it wasn't a couple days later he passed away in the hospital. But so he was working right up until the end, which is just how he wanted it. The only thing that would have made him even better, well, I guess he did get through hunting season. He loved hunting. He got through the hunting season last year and made it through the holidays. And yeah, I don't know. But in the end, we all gotta go. That's just one of those immutable facts of life. Unless, of course, I guess you're Elijah, then I guess there's a little bit of flexibility there. But don't know. I hope what I do with the rest of my life would make him proud. Don't know. I hope. But anyway, appreciate you tuning in, and really, I it's bittersweet, but it's yeah, not a bad thing. So I think you understand why I'm not quite ready to do the full video on the main channel. I want to do it when it's fun and whatnot. But I thought, you know, getting things ready and at least sharing this part with a smaller group here would be a first step. Neat old guns. And I'm sure my brother will feel exactly the same way I do about those. By the way, like I said, there were 2 from his grandfather. So my brother has the other one. So we both have one. So that's good. And to be fair, his is the rarer gun anyway. And there was also an over and under 410. That's actually pretty cool. Over and unders can be really slick, and that one was. That was another one my father was proud of. In fact, he was so proud of it, he basically never shot it. But he sure loved his Remington 30-06s. I think he wore out 3 or 4 of them over the years, those 7.42s. That was his deer gun. Who knows how many whitetail he killed. Now the 410, that probably put an end to quite a few squirrel and rabbit and quail. Certainly quail. I definitely remember that very clearly. See, my mother, she doesn't like wild game, deer, squirrel, but she will eat quail, so he'd have deer for us, and then if he could get her a couple of quail, he'd always do it. And the 22, the revolver, it certainly put a lot of holes and a lot of empty Budweiser cans. Thanks, guys. Sometimes I just need an outlet, and I appreciate you tuning in. And hope you all have a great weekend. Oh, some good news too. It's finally turning cool here. I'm sitting outside, and it's probably the 50s, and it feels great. And the highs have been in the 70s. We've had the windows open, so yay! Please don't turn hot again. Please don't turn hot again. I like fall. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.